Hi, I'm Ian Palzer. Growing up, I didn't hear stories about my family history, nor about our shared culture, or even about where we originate from. Instead, my parents told me about their life experiences, the stories they had lived through. I've heard similar stories from all over my family tree, from my uncles to my aunts, and even from my grandparents. I've learned from these stories, using them as a guide to inform my decisions in my life, learning from the experiences they've had for me to learn from. However, I take inspiration from one set of stories the most, the stories from my mom and her mom. As a kid, my mom was raised by a man working days at a pharmaceutical plant and a mom working nights at a seafood restaurant. Her parents worked different times of the day, so that somebody would always be home to take care of her. But before she had my mom, my grandmother had gone to college. She attended for 3 years, but had to drop out after running out of money. She decided she would wait a while, gathering up money before she could go back to college. And then she met my grandfather. She had 3 kids. Time started slipping by. But this didn't stop her. When my mom was 9, she went back to college. She finished her degree and became a math teacher, achieving her dream. And after working on this goal for over 2 decades, it was finally completed. My mom also had dreams growing up. Some were big and some were small. Like, from an early age, she learned that she liked to swim, so she dedicated a lot of her life to joining a swim team. In high school, she finally got to do this, becoming a captain of her swim team. And then eventually, she got kicked off the team. Many of her early dreams went like this: hard work, promising results, and eventual failure. But she had seen from her mom what it takes to fulfill a dream sometimes. And from this, she learned to never stop trying. Right out of high school, she decided she was going to college. After several years of study, she had dropped out. After that, she began working as a bartender. Through working here, she eventually met my father. As a kid, I was raised by a man who worked days and a mom who worked nights. My dad had to leave early in the morning, which meant my mom had to take care of me. She woke up early each and every day, even after late nights. She got little sleep, but she still did what she could to take care of me every single day, for years on end. But she still had a dream. She had seen what her mom had done when she was a kid, and she decided to follow in her footsteps. My mom went back to college, doing general classes at ACCC, while still getting little sleep and taking care of me. She moved on to Stockton, where she finished her degree and got a Bachelor of Science in Business Studies. She used this to become an accountant. She got hired by a pharmaceutical company, and she's working there, right now, happy, fulfilling her dream. I myself am in college right now, right out of high school. I don't plan on failing, but I've seen the course each matriarch before me has taken. They dreamed. They failed college. They had kids. They went back to college. They succeeded in spite of all the difficulty, and they achieved their dreams. If I do fail college, or if I fail in some other way, the lessons I've learned from these stories is that there's an opportunity to come back. No matter how hard it seems, or how hard I'll have to try, I know there's a second opportunity. I keep this important lesson in mind as I continue on in my life. This sharing of life experiences in my family is our culture. To have these stories in front of me, from people I personally know and from people I personally respect, it makes them more valuable to learn from. I hope you, after hearing my relatives' stories, will learn from them and use them to guide you in your life, as I do in mine. But more so, I hope it inspires you to learn from the people you know in your family. To research the information I used here, I did an interview with both subjects of this speech. My bibliography for that is on screen now. Thank you to Kathy Ricker, my grandmother, and Corinne Palzer, my mom, for the interviews and much more.
Hello, my name is Kiana Nunez, and for my informative speech, I will be talking about my heritage. My family is from the island of Puerto Rico, and my mother and father had come here at 15 and 21, not knowing much English and immigrating by themselves. I am the first person in my family to have completely grown up in America, while the rest of my family is still in Puerto Rico by themselves. Something that brings me to know my culture are the Taínos. The Taínos are the first people that Christopher Columbus had met when he had discovered the island in 1493. They are the original Puerto Ricans, and they are the backbone of our culture. They have influenced our language, our food, and overall our culture as well. Throughout the island, there are multiple carvings and there are multiple artifacts around that you could still see from Taínos even back then. About 61% of Puerto Ricans have Taíno blood in them, and I am part of the 61%. Being Puerto Rican and not have ever lived in Puerto Rico is quite hard sometimes because I feel very disconnected. But knowing that I am part of the 61% that has the Taíno blood running through them helps me feel truly Puerto Rican, because most of the time I struggle with not being Puerto Rican or not being Puerto Rican enough. As stated before, Taínos have a great influence on food. And while many people know that Puerto Ricans do have delicious food, it has meaning. A lot of our food has fresh vegetables and fresh meat inside of it due to our location of a tropical island. There is a lot of vegetation, so many animals and wildlife thrive on our island. There are many cows and many pigs, many types of animals, and the tropical weather allows us to have a lot of fresh vegetables and fruit, and the ocean surrounding provides us with a lot of fish and sea life. A lot of our food has a lot of these things in it. Right here we have sancocho, mofongo, patillos, pernin, and then pasteles. A lot of these foods are normally eaten around the holidays, but they can be eaten around any time of the year. And we take great pride in our food because they have been passed down for generations and generations, starting with our Taíno ancestors. In Puerto Rico, there is a strong sense of community, and this is one of the animals that bring us together. This is called the coqui. The coqui is a national symbol and one of our national animals on the island. It is a small frog about the size of a quarter, and they sing after every rainfall and every night, and I will show you what they sing. Now, the coqui is a very important factor in our culture because it brings us together. Puerto Ricans are very family oriented, and we have a very strong sense of community. After the Hurricane Maria, our island was left completely destroyed. Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory, so we are not officially a state, and we do not have involvement in politics as much as other territories or states may have. And because of this, the hurricane had been very difficult for our people, but our community had gotten together, and there was neighborhoods who went to other neighborhoods and helped rebuild the island. My family being one of them, I come from Arecibo, and we had built the barrio, which is like our little community, back up and from the ground, and we have made it more beautiful than it ever was. Although I don't really know what it's like to be truly Puerto Rican, I can say that knowing that my culture is like this helps me a lot. My family had come here with nothing really, and even though I've only been there a handful of times, knowing about the Taínos, knowing that I'm part of the 61% of Puerto Ricans with the Taíno blood in them, helps me feel more comfortable about my culture. And I will never be 100% Puerto Rican because I will never truly understand that sense of community or the sense of family that Puerto Ricans generally have just because I have been here my whole life. Now, even though this is the case, like I said, knowing that I come from such a beautiful and rich culture allows me to understand that I don't have to be over there and I can be here and still be proud of where I come from.
Hi, my name is Amanda, and I will be doing an informative speech on what to expect after expecting. My whole thing, what I want to show you is that when raising children as adults, you learn some of your most valuable traits as a person. This is to inform you how children help us discover who we are as a person. This is my tree, and these are my two girls up here. When giving birth to a child, you have so many different types of feelings and emotions that you go through. You could be excited, you could be scared, you're just nervous, but there's this new journey that's ahead, and you're just deciding, am I going to carry on old traditions that were taught to me growing up, or if I will start my new traditions. Either way, it's going to be a journey, it's going to be a life lesson that you have to just go through. You learn lessons along the way of self-discovery, whether if it's where am I at in my life at this point, I'm raising my children, how do I want to raise my children? What morals do I want to instill in my children? What values do I want them to have? You want to start by supporting the group, having them try new things. Whether if it's a food or a new activity, it's just like being an adult and wanting to try a new career. You have to give a little and let them experience it to see if it's something that they choose to follow, if they enjoy, if they hate it. Either way, it's a life experience that we have to go through. According to numerous Kids Health, you want to boost self-esteem. A lot of adults struggle with self-esteem issues, but we want to build that in our children. We want to do that at a very young age. We sit and think on how and what we want to work on ourselves being adults, and to have children, you're questioning again, what do I want to put in my children's mind as a value, as a very important trait, something I want them to carry on with for the rest of their lives. And again, as an adult, some of us are still struggling with that. So to try to figure out what we want to instill in our children, it's a journey. It's a very emotional journey. You want to teach children how to set limits, that it's okay to have boundaries. You want to be consistent with discipline so they know that there's a follow through. You do this is the consequence. You want them to have respect with learning that it's okay to have boundaries and acceptable behaviors. Is that an acceptable behavior? A person who's constantly, let's say, talking bad on another person or putting a person down, that's not an acceptable behavior. We want our children to know that. We want them to build their self-control and their self-awareness. It's hard when you see adults who are still struggling with that, and yet we are trying to instill this with our children. Again, that's where we have to look at ourselves and where we are in our life. Is this who I want to be? Is this the example that I want my children to see? I need to have self-control. I need to teach my children what's an acceptable behavior, being kind and decent to another human being. Some of us, again, as adults, we struggle with that, but we want to instill those positive values within our children. We want them to learn how to communicate at a young age. We want them to be able to express their feelings and emotions and show them how strong and valuable they are. Even in the workforce, we need to know how to be professional, how to present ourselves, how to have a certain conversation. Some adults still struggle with that. With raising our children, We want them to be better. It's my turn, it's your turn. Here, Johnny, you can have this. Okay, thank you, Susie. Sharing, simple. You start that at a young age. And you can take that into the workforce. You want them to build healthy relationships, not just in the workforce, but outside of the workforce as well. According to Stevenson's University Online, you want to ensure that a situation is resolved in a respectful manner, and the way you do that is by prioritizing communication, especially in a positive way. We want our kids to grow strong, develop, be wise, and just grow and just be beautiful young adults as they thrive throughout their years. You want to start this by having them eating healthy. A lot of us adults, we're constantly on the go, we're constantly eating fast food, but here we're making sure our children are following the food pyramid. But we have to start with ourselves and set an example. We can focus on good family eating habits by eating together at the dinner table and just being mindful of what we take into our bodies. So when raising our children, we want our children to be better, and that makes us question our life. I questioned my life. I question my life as far as, what do I want? Do I want to try new things? Do I want to put myself in school? Yes, I want to better my life. I set an example in that. I've rethought about the people that I put around me in my circle. Am I making the right choice in my life? Am I setting my limits? Am I creating my boundaries? That is okay, and that is what I want to teach my children. I still work on my communication as an adult, whether if it's my body language, my tone. I'm mindful of how I can affect other people, and that's exactly what I want my children to be mindful of. I want to teach my children how to be healthy, follow guidelines, and protect yourself. I need to follow those same guidelines, be strong, eat healthy, communicate well as an adult, so I set my example. I'm going to eat healthy because I want to be longer. I'm going to practice communication because I want to be smarter, I want to be wiser, I want to be kinder. I rethink the values of myself because I want to do better for my children.
Hello class, my name is Michael Gerace. Today we're going to be talking about my cultural heritage and how my Polish and Italian roots have shaped me as a person through traditions and our shared Catholic faith. I've learned the true importance of family and food, how food can serve as a bridge between the past and present traditions. For example, my family, we have the 7-fish dinner on Christmas Eve, which contains 7 or more seafood dishes. For my family, it's not just a meal, it's a time for the family to get together, passed through generations on my dad's side of the family, since they are the Catholics. We then usually have dessert and play a card game called 31. Sometimes me and my grandpa would actually go out and catch the crabs Christmas Eve morning, so it's fresh. Not all the time though. We're retired from dealing in the casinos, so me and my brother try seeing them all the time because they leave to Florida in the wintertime. They live here in New Jersey. My dad's side of the family did originate in southern Italy, where everything revolves around food. We try to see them as much as we possibly can, but no matter what, I know that Christmas Eve will bring us and the family together, even if we can't see them throughout the year. My mother's side of the family is Polish and also Catholic. Even though church wasn't a daily thing in their lives, the faith still remained pretty significant in its own way. We celebrated Catholic holidays like Christmas, Easter, and I went to church as a kid, but stopped going once I grew older because I was living with my mom, which is Polish, and my dad wasn't around, which is the Catholic side of my family, so the Catholic wasn't as pushed on me as it should have been. My Polish grandparents live a corner away from me, so there's multiple dinners I have throughout the year on each side of the family that I constantly have. But family culture and heritage can really shape a person's growth and affecting what they may become as they're older.
Hello everyone, my name is Leah, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about how I was able to move out of my parents' house. And the reason I want to talk about this was because according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, a lot of people don't tend to move out of their house until they're about 27, and it's different for everybody on why they decide to move out of their parents' house and when they choose to do it. A lot of people tend to wait until they graduate college, find a stable job and income, and maybe even just straight buy a home instead of renting. But I decided to move out at a young age just because I felt like there was a disconnect between me and my family. They always were the kind of just stay inside, don't do anything, never leave. Whereas me, I just was trying to just do whatever I wanted to do without anybody worrying about me. And even when I turned 18, they were still always just asking me where I was at and who I was with and what I was doing. And I was just ready for my own independence and ready to just be by myself. So pretty much to start my journey to moving out, when I was 17, I got a stable job and I got a car from, saving up money from the job and not having to worry about any bills or rent because I wasn't even 18 yet. By the time I turned 18, I decided to get my first credit card. If you don't have good credit, a lot of the times the credit card companies will ask you to put a down payment down, about like $100, and then they'll end up giving you a credit card. And then if your credit card remains in good standing, you end up getting your money back. So I ended up getting my first credit card when I was 18. So I already had a stable job, car, and credit. So I knew I would be able to easily find a place if I actually put some effort into it. It's all about actually putting in the effort to looking for the place. So I recommend looking on websites like Zillow.com or Apartments.com, and that's what I ended up doing. And as I'm looking, I ended up getting emails as well talking about open houses. So me and my friend at the time, who I was going to move in with, decided to go to this one open house. After we went to this open house, we decided we didn't really like it too much just because it was a duplex with the upstairs. It was an upstairs duplex unit. So the bedrooms were like in the attic, so the ceilings were triangle, if you know how those are, so you can't really fit too much in there. However, we still filled out the application for the unit just to see what happens. So we ended up hearing back from the landlord about a week later. He calls me and he says he ended up renting that unit to somebody else, and I was like, oh, okay. But he said that we looked like a good pair, so he was like, we could check out this unit before he puts it on the market. I was like, that sounds like a great idea. So we check out this place, and it's in Mays Landing, and I'm originally from Millville, so it's about 23 minutes from Millville, from where I'm from. And we check it out, and it's a really, really nice place. And we decide we do want to take it. However, it's having some electrical issues, so we give it some time, but we are going to take the unit. So pretty much, when you're looking for a place to stay and you want to move out as soon as possible, like I wanted to do, we still wanted to look for like 3 major important things when looking for these apartments. Number one, we wanted to be in good condition. You don't want to just rush out, move somewhere, and then the building's falling apart and stuff's not getting fixed. Then you want it to be in a good area. Like I said, I moved 23 minutes away from my hometown. However, I do get a little bit lonely. When you're working a full-time job and then full-time school, it's hard to go up there and see everybody. So I'm over here in Mays Landing a little bit by myself. But, it's better than living with my family. Everybody's different. And lastly, the most important thing when moving out is the rent price. And this is pretty much how I've made it so far since I'm 23 now, and I moved out when I was 19. A lot has happened. So when looking for the rent price, you want to make sure you can afford the rent by yourself, even if you're moving in with somebody. So I was moving in with my friend at the time, and we decided to look at this place, and it was $995. So I knew even without my roommate being there, I'd still be able to afford the unit myself. So I thought it would be a great idea to get the place. He, on the other hand, he wasn't too eager as I was to move out, but I knew at the end of the day I was still going to be able to pay my rent whether he was there or not. So it was never a stress for me, and it never has been. So after you've finally found the apartment you want to make sure it's an actual lease you're going to get, and it's going to be verified, and you're not going to get scammed, because I know many people who end up sending money over thinking they're getting an apartment, and then they never hear back again. So pretty much, once we liked the place, we met up again, and we got the lease, which I have still here. We get a lease, and then we get the key, and then we give him the money. So we had the legal documents, we gave him the money, and now we have the key. So we have access into the house. So it's now official. With the lease pretty much is a year lease most of the time, and it'll put the date of when the lease ends, and it pretty much also is just a list of everything you can do, what you can't do, and what you're expected to pay. And then right at the end of the lease, everybody signs who's moving in, and the landlord signs as well. My lease was only a year lease, and once your year lease is up, a lot of the times you can renew another one. However, you can just pay month to month and then move out whenever you're ready, which is what I'm doing right now. But yeah, so once you have the lease signed, you get the key, you move in, and it does take a little bit of time to start getting all your furniture together, but you moved out and you already feel better because you finally get the privacy you wanted. And yeah, and I'm still here in the same place years later, different roommates, still able to pay my rent, however. And it's just all about just making sure you understand the responsibility you're putting on when you're moving out, especially at such a young age. Alright, and thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Corey Robertson, and this is Teach Your Kids to Fish, and they'll have an allergy to shellfish. My informative speech on my family history in the Ocean City and Atlantic City area with fishing. My family comes from a long line of fishermen, and they have taught me some of the best baits to use and what really matters when going fishing. My hope is to give you a little bit of insight as to what fishing is like and some of the best baits to use, while giving you some anecdotal stories of me and my dad fishing, as well as my grandfather fishing, even though I have a shellfish allergy and have never liked any seafood. Growing up, my dad, uncle, and my grandfather all loved going fishing, and they would take my cousins and I out all the time. My dad had a boat, and I even had my own pole. I used a SpongeBob fishing pole with a Disney Princess tackle box, and I once caught a baby shark. Neither of those items was anywhere near expensive or top of the line, but I still caught things. There are many misconceptions about fishing, including that you need really fancy materials like lines or poles or even high-end bait, when in reality the materials are less important than the technique. You can fish for hours on a top-of-the-line pole and reel with an expensive fishing line, but if you have the wrong bait or don't utilize your pole correctly, you'll never catch a thing. I never ate the things that we would catch growing up because I hated seafood, and my grandfather always used to say he didn't eat seafood because he didn't have to. His dad was a commercial fisherman, and he was an alcoholic, and he would go away to sea for months at a time, and would come home with $10, give the family $2 to buy food, and he would go drink the rest. So they had to eat fish because it was all they had. My grandfather, when he grew up, he wanted to make sure that he never had to eat fish unless he wanted to. When it comes to what you need for fishing, you need a fishing pole, line, and bait. A fishing pole is just a tool that needs to be strong enough to withstand the size of the fish that you're going out for. My uncle used to use broken poles, just what they would find. They never spent any money on fishing. You don't need to. The line, you want it to be strong enough to make sure you don't lose your fish if you accidentally hook something on the bottom, like a tree or a tire. And you want to make sure the line won't break if the fish bites it by accident due to the poor visibility, because we fish in dark water due to the nature of where we are. The bait is the most important part. This can change depending on the fish that you're trying to catch. My uncle says that you need to fish with just any bait you can find. They used to pick up minnows when they would go fishing with my great-grandfather, and they would use just whatever they could get. They would use squid from ShopRite because it was the same thing as what they would get in the bait shop. My dad says that you should purchase bait at the local bait shop, ensuring to befriend the person working there because they'll let you know what the fish are biting on. Some baits are a waste of time, and talking to this person helps so you know how to avoid those. In my family, we use the drifting technique, which is what my dad calls it. It's a combination of two techniques called trolling and bottom fishing. Trolling, according to SWI fishing charters, is an angling technique in which bait or lure is pulled through the water behind a moving boat, while bottom method of fishing is kind of to be said the lazy way to fish, where after installing the bait in the hook and throwing it down in the water, you just need to wait for your bait to be caught by the fish. This method can be done from the boat, the beach, or the lake. The main purpose of this technique is to tempt the fish to grab it. You don't have to cast with the bottom fishing technique or the trolling technique unless you're doing it from land. The boat moves, so the moving boat casts for you. Due to the nature of where we live, this is, again, mostly in dark waters. It is important to find the right hole where the fish are hanging out when you're using this method in order to ensure that there are actually fish where you're going to catch. In my family, I was taught how to fish by my dad, who was taught how to fish by his dad, along with my uncle. They were also taught by my great-grandfather, and my grandfather was taught by his uncle. My dad and my uncle used to go out on my grandfather's boat, and my grandfather would drive his boat over from Absecon and pick them up in Brigantine because crossing the bridge for them was a really big deal. They didn't have a lot of money. And he would just take them out fishing for the day. They wouldn't spend any money on what they needed. They would use broken poles. They would use whatever line they could find. And they would use minnows that they caught themselves. And they would just go out. And that would be their fun day with Grandpa. My grandfather learned from his uncle, who my father's middle name is after. And that uncle had a point on Mankiller Island that was named after him. It's called Dingle's Point. And that point is where my grandfather was taught how to fish. And it was just Dingle's Point, named after my great uncle. My grandmother also used to go fishing on Mankiller Island before her and my grandfather got married. So that's just a cute little anecdotal thing. My dad is a commercial diver for a living, so he does underwater welding and construction because my family is super connected to the water. My grandmother's maiden name was Lake, and there is a bay in Pleasantville named Lakes Bay, and that's named after her grandfather, Simon Lake. So her dad was fishing in nearly every photo I've ever seen of him, and the line of fishermen just goes back as far as I know in my family. In conclusion, don't let high-end fishing shops con you into spending a ton of money on tools when you can succeed at fishing with a $20 pole, $2 of bait, and $10 worth of fishing line. The important thing is to enjoy the time you spend out there, the relaxation that comes with being on the water, and enjoying the peace while you wait for a bite. When with family, it's all the better to enjoy the quality time you have together. You don't even have to fish for food, because even if you're doing it just as a family bonding activity and you throw the fish back, you can still enjoy the time that you're spending fishing with your family. I will leave you on the note that when you go out fishing, just remember to take in everything that you brought out and more. We want to clean up the nature. That's what fishing is about. That's what a connection to nature is. Cleaning up behind yourselves and taking care of the area. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Penelope. I'm going to be doing my informative speech based on Mis Quinces, also known as Quinceañera or Sweet 15. This next slide is an introduction. So imagine yourself walking in to a hall with a beautiful dress, family, music, and friends all gathered to celebrate you transitioning from a young girl into womanhood. So basically today I will be explaining the history and meaning behind Hispanic Quinceañera, walk you through the key traditions, and show you how this event reflects such as individual growth and community values. This first picture, it is an invitation that I did for my quinceañera, which was given to my guests. So as a quinceañera, it is important to select a theme because it makes it unique, and also other quinceañeras won't have the same theme or the invitation because they made it to their liking and made it unique in their way. The second picture, it is a guest book that is prepared ahead of time for guests of her day of, so they can see all the preparation she did. And this third picture right here, it is a photo album that us quinceañeras keep because it is a memory that is left for her, and also she selects the pictures that meant more to her or that she liked more preference to the pictures, and she can show those to her friends, family, and next generations. So this slide is a history and meaning of quinceañera. So a quinceañera is a tradition Latin American of a girl's 15th birthday, marking her passage from a girlhood to womanhood. So a quinceañera is both a religious and a social event, such as an importance of a family or society in the life of a young woman. So there are often ceremonies included a Catholic mass, elegant dress, special dances, or a large party with family friends, which in America it is recognized as a sweet 16th birthday. A photo session before is always taken. because the celebration of the quinceañera event, there's always a tradition of having a photo session done before the big day to be shown on the day of the event, pictures of herself on the entrance. As well, there is also a second photo session, but that includes on the day of the event because the memories that are saved of her celebration, the film also taken that same day on her special day, which I'm going to show you. Next slide. This photo session is before the big day, so that she does the preparations. Like in the guest book, this is what will be shown to the guests. And the next slide, it is the photo session on her big day, which is of her all preparations, and this is what she'll see in the next album, which is her photo album that she keeps. So the next is the key tradition of quinceañera ceremony. The first thing being a religious ceremony that begins with a church service that gives thanks to her receiving her next chapter and blessings. But there's often sometimes that not every quinceañera does, because sometimes, for example, in my situation, my time was short and the mass ended up being, canceled because there was they did overbooking. And the second is a grand entrance, where she enters into the hall with her court honor, which in Spanish is called chambelanes. And the next performance is the first dance waltz. In Spanish is called baile de vals. After vals, she dances with her father or mother. And the next step, it is a big symbolization of her transition into womanhood, which is a symbolization of womanhood, which is from flats to heels of her, representing her tradition to womanhood. Like I said, her mother putting on a crown is a tradition of her honoring her also to her next, chapter in her life. There's also a thing that we, as Hispanic, we do this tradition of giving a gift as a surprise to the quinceañera because it's honoring her. And after, there also proceeds with it's called surprise dance, which in Spanish is called baile de sorpresa. And this is also a performance that she prepares in months in advance, and so she can give to her guests. So then after that, she spends time with the guests, and she proceeds to her night. And I have slides, some pictures here that I can show. So the entry of her grand celebration. So this is, for example, my entry, what I had there, and also what it looked like in the hall. So like I said, the guest book is there because to symbolize of all her preparation she did, the photo session she took means a lot. And the waltz, this is when we baile de vals, which is done with her court of honor, which is her mom and her father, which means a lot. And also, and it's important because you're honoring her tradition. It is also transition into womanhood. It is what I told you, we changed the shoes of her father, honoring her from the flats to heels into womanhood, and her mother honoring her into being an adult now. And this is what we do, is called brindis in Spanish, which is her giving we do a toast as her next chapter. And this is what I told you about the surprise gift that is given to the quinceañera. A lot of people do it multiple things. For my occasion, it was a jewelry set and a flight to our country, which is Mexico. And this is baile sorpresa, which is surprise dance, which is she prepared, as I said, months in advance. And then after that, what proceeds is that it's called that, they open up the floor so they can dance with her guests. And universal message. The quinceañera reflects on the theme of transition, which is something that every culture experience events, forms of which is a sweet 16, baptism, graduation, moments of milestones, which is a growth responsibility individually. And a celebration of emphasizes not only individual growth, but also importance of community of friends and family gathered to have the importance of her love and support of a quinceañera. Memorial ending. Today I share this history because of the quinceañera describes its important tradition, explain how it reflects the universal theme of coming of age. So what I want to say is that not no matter where you come from, but from the moments remind us that growing up is not just about an age, but embracing the change, responsibility, and the love of those around us. So that the next time you celebrate someone's milestone, you think of their own as a quinceañera, a journey towards becoming who they meant to be. And these are the pictures that symbolizes, you know, at the end of the night, which is she continues to take pictures of her guests. I took some pictures of myself, my parents, my sisters, and I appreciate you guys for watching. I hope you guys understood what it means to us as Hispanics, what it is to have a quinceañera.
Hi, my name is Casey, and for my informative speech, I'm going to be talking about my 3 older sisters, my relationship with them, and how they have influenced me. So I think that being the youngest sibling, specifically having 3 older sisters, has had a lot of advantages for me. I've always had people to look up to. Even since I was a little kid, I've always had those 3 older sisters to confide in, always talk to, ask them anything. I've been able to learn from their mistakes. I'm able to ask them advice about things that they've experienced when they were my age. My sister Lily, who I am closest with in age, we work at the same job. We both go to ACCC. So we're really always doing the same thing. And we work at the same job, so I'm always able to confide in her if I make a mistake or need help with something. So the way that they influence me, so Holly specifically, my oldest sister, she influences me in the way of life lessons. She likes to tell me that it's important to go straight into college after high school so that you would just have a career faster than waiting till your mid-20s to pick a career, go to school, and then start out from there, because that's what she did. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but she likes to try and guide me into what can I learn from her mistakes to make my life a little easier, a little bit better. So I'm thankful for that. And my middle sister, Grace, she is 5 years older than me. She influences me in the way of we like the same books, the same shows, the same music, the same clothes. I think her and I are the most alike. I hear that from people that we're like the same person, just a little bit different. So I'm also thankful for her and everything I can learn from her. And my sister Lily, who I'm closest with in age, she is 2 years older than me. The biggest influence that she has had on me recently is she recently decided that she wants to go to radiology school and be a radiology technician. And I have been conflicted in what I want to do career-wise. And hearing that she wants to do that has made me think, oh, I could also do that. I could pursue that because that is a good career. So right now I'm taking classes to apply to that same radiology program, and I'm very thankful for her that she has been able to influence me in that way. I think that's the biggest influence out of all of my sisters that I have received. And just more about my sisters. I really can't imagine not growing up with sisters. A lot of my friends, they don't even have younger sisters, or some are only children, and I really can't imagine that. Not having people to confide in or just hang out with other than your friends. A lot of my interests and dislikes and likes mainly stem from them. We are all different people, but we're all very much the same. And they're all just a very big part of my life. We do almost everything together, even if it's not an important thing. We're always just with each other to do really anything. We're always just, there's so many of us that we're really just never alone. And I'm very thankful for them. My mom always tells us how lucky we are to have sisters, because she doesn't have any sisters. She has all brothers, and I am very thankful to have sisters, have so many sisters, and specifically be the youngest out of all of them, and continue to watch them and learn from them. Every day I get to learn from their mistakes, learn from the good things that they've done, and just understand how to continue on and do better in every aspect of my life because of them. So that's my informative speech about my sisters.
Hi everyone, today I'm going to be talking about the time that my great-grandmother and 2 members of her family decided that they were going to escape Ukraine. My great-grandmother was born and raised in Ukraine until about the year 1950, when her mother decided that it was time for them to leave and escape and come to the United States of America to create a life that she had always wanted for herself and her 2 children. So back to the year 1950, her mother decided that it was time to leave. They had no time to grab anything. My grandma had one thing that she grabbed, and that was her baby doll that she had always had since the day she was born. Her brother, who also was escaping with them, didn't have time to grab anything. They left in the middle of the night, hoping that they would be safer than leaving during the day, because again, there were guards everywhere. Every time you turned their head, there was a guard. Did you know that traveling, or escaping I should say, in the 1950s was a lot different than it is today, because you don't have to escape anywhere? My great-grandmother was only 12 years old at the time. It took them days and hours to come to the United States of America. Once they finally got here, her mother decided that it was time to live the life that she had always wanted. After my grandmother had lived in the United States for a while, she decided to go on and find my great-grandfather, and they met in the year 1962. They later on got married in 1964, only 2 short years after dating each other. After that, they had opened a family restaurant in the hometown of Wildwood Crest, New Jersey, called the Mariner Inn. It was a family-owned restaurant right on the bay, and they had it for a few years. After that, they had 4 children, 3 daughters and 1 son. They lived happily ever after together in the hometown of Wildwood Crest until later on moving off the island into Rio Grande. Something that I always have with me in my car or in my bag is this picture of me and my grandmother when I was little. It's something very important to me to keep with me and carry, because it always helps me remember the times that she was here and that she would talk to me about never giving up, and even if you feel discouraged, to just keep going. She was the #1 supporter that I had, from being at dance conventions and dance competitions and during school and all the other things that I had accomplished. She was always my #1 supporter. She did pass away when I was graduating 8th grade, which was a very hard moment for me. It was just about right before my 8th grade graduation. So this picture we made smaller and we put it on my graduation cap. So she was with me with all these milestones, and we also did that for my high school graduation, which was very special and meaningful. So this picture means a lot to me. The point that I wanted to get across today in this video is to never give up on your dreams. Even if you feel discouraged or you have something that gets in your way, you always have people supporting you, no matter if it's your family, your friends, your teachers, anyone. It could even be a stranger. Someone is always there supporting you, and there is always a plan for you. So never give up, even if you feel discouraged or have something get in the way of your plan. I think that it is always important to know about your family history and all of the challenges that they had faced. If it wasn't for my great-grandmother and her family deciding to escape Ukraine and come to the United States of America, my family would look a lot different. I love to say I have a little percent of Ukraine in me. I'm so proud of my great-grandmother and her family for everything that they had faced, including the challenges and the accomplishments. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary Kate, and today I'm going to be discussing the importance of being polite, expressing or exchanging manners, and showing respect. That was heavily stressed within my upbringing. That is something my family has really instilled within my childhood, my upbringing, and even still to this day in my adult life. I titled my speech, "Always Be So Polite, but Never Forget Your Power," and that is actually a quote from Taylor Swift. Swifty here. And that really resonated with me because one, it's from her song named Marjorie, which was a song dedicated to her grandmother, and she put those quotes, or those quotes that she really held close and dear to her, that rung true and that hold such wisdom, and that really rung true to me because that is something that my parents have definitely taught. For one, my father is a Marine veteran, and this is him in his dress blues. And being raised in a military household, you are heavily hounded on showing respect to not only your elders, but your peers in every interaction you have, as well as being polite. Being polite can change so much in any interaction you have. Being polite is not only proven to make others happy, but make others listen to you more. So my first point and my mother, going off track here, my mother is a Mexican immigrant, and within the Mexican culture, showing respect is very, very stressed, even to the dead. So showing respect to any person in my life, whether that's my boss, my friend, coworker, even someone who isn't showing me the most respect back, is heavily stressed for my mother, as well as my father, of course, and within my sisters and myself. So being polite, kind, and having respect is my main message of my speech. So first off, I'm going to go off with kindness. Kindness is free. Kindness has been proven, can heal negativity, jealousy, and can overall heal the world. Simple acts of kindness, just by opening the door for a stranger, we all heard that one, or cracking a smile, letting someone cut in front of you that has a couple less items less than you at the grocery store, offering to put a cart away. All those little things really amount to something big. You never know what someone's going through. You never know the level of someone's mental health. You never know what they're going home to, if they have a home. You never know what the news they received that day. You have no idea who you're walking past and what they're going through. And you cracking a smile, saying hi, can change someone's entire world. It can save a life. Sometimes I'm maybe seen as too kind, but again, to me, mental health is so important, and you never know what someone's going through and the struggles they're having, which could possibly be why they're not being so kind back. But you have the power to change the world, because if you do that to someone and then they decide to carry on because you changed their and made them happy, and then they want to do a random act of kindness for the next stranger, it causes a huge chain reaction, and there you go. Now you have a chain reaction of kindness going on in the world because you decided to crack a smile, ask someone what their name was, let someone go in front of you, whatever the case is. Maybe even being more kind than just a simple random act of kindness. Kindness is so powerful, and it is free, and our world absolutely needs it. Now on to respect. Oh, there goes my light. Respect. That is something, it's a pivotal part of human interactions, and it's so necessary in maintaining socializing skills. Having respect for your elders, one, for your teachers, your parents, your friends, your peers, your coworkers, your crabby boss. It's not only, it's not only proven, it should only be used for your elders, but to everyone, like I said. And while respect is taught, youth perceiving, they're witnessing what you do in public interactions. Kids are always watching, and you never know who's watching. So them seeing you being respectful and having manners can possibly change the way they interact with others. You have the power to change the world with how you act in public. And sometimes it may be hard if you're having a bad day, but showing respect, as in remembering your waiter's name, asking how their day is, it's a huge sign of respect. It makes all the difference. As someone who works in service, someone who is remembering my name, it's bittersweet sometimes. So it can change someone's day, and that's just by being respectful, not even being kind. Respect is treating others kindly with consideration, inclusivity, empathy, and even valuing someone's boundaries or, their point of view, as again, this world definitely needs. Trying to help my outline. Displaying respect in every interaction is just as important as kindness and exchanging manners. Now, going on to manners. Yes, we know that is taught. Again, that's not just for the parents we blamed, how it's a thing of the past. You can also help people or children by portraying kindness, respect, and being polite in public, as I just said earlier. You're allowing the opportunity to have mutual respect between not only the interacting parties, but those surrounding. So as I'm gonna wrap this up, after going in depth of the importance of conveying respect, kindness, and being polite, those three can also be associated with weakness. Again, the quote I had started with, never be so polite you forget your power. While yes, being kind, polite, and having manners can be seen as being weak possibly, you can still portray the same thing while still standing your ground. Don't forget your worth, but also remind others of your worth. It can be awkward, but there's ways to do it, and honestly, it rings much louder than someone who's being nasty when you are still giving respect, being kind, and being polite. You alone yield the power to change one person and create a positive chain reaction, and therefore will change the world with kindness, love, respect, and politeness. Thank you.
Did you know that 1 in 6 siblings are half siblings? Not everybody in the U.S., according to the 2020 census, had full-blooded siblings, and that was 1 out of 6% of them. So my brother representing my mother's side and me representing my father's side, but still like this, no matter how far apart we've been. From a young age, we both lived under the roof of our mother, and that when we woke up, we heard nothing but Spanish music while she was cleaning the house. Woke up late night, early mornings, late nights, no matter what time it was. If she had to clean, she had to clean. Spanish music blasting, all types of hours. And for the majority of the first portion of our lives, my father, who took care of both of us, was not in the picture up until at least some portion down the road, where he came in, took care of us, did what he had to do. But with him, it was more oldies music, not like jazz and old school R&B kind of vibes. With him, it was things were done in a certain way, and they remain that way. As with our Spanish mother, she took the responsibility of doing everything herself. And of course, we're not mean or anything, so we accommodated and helped out a lot. But me and his relationship, my brother, has never changed, never faltered, nothing like that. We remain siblings as if we were 100%, both mother and father. We never looked at each other differently, never once gave each other a glance or weirded out by each other's presences. Only if we, of course, did sibling things and we bullied one another. But never did I ever question that he was not my brother, or just somebody I was really close with. No, he was family through and through, thick through thick. So that's the thing I'm trying to tell you. No matter how far or how even far in relation you guys are. Family is family, blood is blood. Whether it be half sibling, whole sibling, quarter sibling. You know, we joke. We have our moments where we're mad at one another, just like siblings do. And as you guys probably have seen, if you have siblings, you probably bicker too. We've gotten into fights plenty. Growing up, it was never easy.
His forehead glistening.
As you can tell, he got jokes too. So even if in a school project, yeah, I came with a new look, guys. So there's that. But that's certainly one thing that can never remove is us being siblings and having each other's back. Because there's times where when we were taking after our Puerto Rican heritage and we were, you know, attending parties, quinceañeras, meeting family that we've never even seen before, but we were family because our mother grew up with them. So that we called them aunties, uncles, titi, tio, things like that. It never changed. It never once crossed our minds that those people weren't family. They are family, and we remained still in touch, still close. We have 6 cousins that aren't really cousins, but we consider them cousins because they are close with us, and we built that family relation with them. So things like that, you can't overlook certain things, and you can't hide things from them either, unless you know you got your own privacy life. But they're the people that are going to be there for you. They're the people that know you best. Don't run and hide. Don't turn tail when the goings get tough. Don't ghost them. Stay in contact. Remain faithful. You know, share things that you don't think they need to hear. You don't know that. They might even help you out in certain instances. You know, you're in trouble, reach out to a close relative, family, or somebody that you deem family related.
Bonds can be thicker than blood.
You said it best. Bonds can be thicker than blood. And keep that relation strong. Keep your motivations high. And, you know, whether full blood, half blood, no blood, family's family. Thank you, guys.
Buongiorno. When you think of Italy, you may think of a hearty deep dish of macaroni and meatballs, or perhaps the Colosseum, or maybe even, dare I say, the cast of Jersey Shore, most of whom are not Italian, by the way. But for me, Italy is more than just delicious food, a place on the map, or a culture a reality TV show built its identity around. It's the Feast of the Seven Fishes we share every Christmas Eve in our pajamas. It's the way my grandmother insists every guest leave her home with a full stomach and arms full of leftovers. It's Sunday dinners that last for hours and the secret ingredient in the red gravy that I will never reveal because my grandmother would kill me. In Italian culture, family is everything. Growing up, I learned that family isn't just people you're related to by blood. It's your neighbor. It's your childhood friend. For Italian, family dinners are more than just meals. They're events where stories are shared, traditions are upheld, and generations collide. I'll never forget our Sunday dinners at my grandmother's house. These aren't just meals, they're a ritual. Every Sunday, the table is filled with homemade pasta, fresh bread, and of course, my grandmother's famous red gravy. But what made these dinners so special wasn't just the food, it was the people. My cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, and anyone else who showed up were always welcomed. It didn't matter if you were family by blood or just a friend who happened to stop by. My grandmother insisted that everyone at the table was family and no one was allowed to leave empty-handed. Sometimes I leave my grandmother's feeling like I've just gone to the grocery store because I came for dinner and left with coffee, 3 loaves of Italian bread, and dinner for 2 weeks. In many ways, these gatherings reflect the core values of Italian heritage: strong family bonds, generosity, and hospitality. My family has taken pride in taking care of one another and making sure they felt supported and loved. My family has always been more than just genetics, but the foundation of who we are. Here I'm going to show you a picture from probably the 1950s. And this is my grandmother and all of her siblings. And you can see she came from a very big family. And this is the normal family dinner crew right here. So we have my aunt, my cousins, me when I was little, and my dad, my grandmother, and unfortunately my grandpa passed away. So he is no longer attending, but we still share our stories about him all of the time. In my family, going big on the holidays is an understatement. So let's start with Christmas. Christmas festivities begin on November 1st. My grandmother insists that our tree decorating and lighting ceremony is on the calendar by mid-October. This year it's set for November 10th, and yes, she has already reminded me twice since marking the date last week. To me, my grandmother truly embodies the spirit of Christmas. She opens her doors on Christmas Eve to anyone without a place to go and makes sure everyone has a gift to unwrap. We open gifts before dinner, and without fail, one of them is always a set of cozy, warm pajamas. Ever since we were young, we wore them to the dinner table. One of our unique traditions is hiding a pickle in our Christmas tree. Not a real one, of course, but a glittery pickle ornament that blends with the pine branches. After a feast of the 7 fishes, she sends us off to find it, and every year we nearly knock the tree over in the process. The person who finds the pickle is said to have good luck for the next year, and they also get a $5 prize from my grandmother. On Easter and every other holiday, my grandmother brings the same warm hospitality, welcoming anyone and everyone to dinner. She makes each of us an Easter basket, even though her oldest grandchild is now 32. Every holiday, we honor our loved ones who passed. She would share stories about her brothers and sisters and the trouble they would get into when they were our age, as well as my grandfather, who unfortunately passed away in 2012, which I mentioned earlier. She would share stories of how they fell in love and how he's still here with us in a lot of ways. Being Italian is something that I am incredibly proud of. Watching my family extend kindness to anyone who they cross paths with is a big reason I am who I am today. I think that everybody could take this trait from the Italian culture. I hope to carry on my grandmother's traditions as I grow older, creating the same warm and loving atmosphere that she's cultivated over the years. An atmosphere that has left a lasting impact on so many lives. Thank you.